Hey guys, welcome back to Of Apples and Magic. This is 15 chapters, so there's gonna be 15 videos of this single story. Anyways, this is my channel, and of course people don't like change and all that, but I'm gonna take this back like when I first started, because when I first started I had like readings and gaming. I'm gonna do that again, but at the same time, right now I'm struggling because I tried to record a game for like 3 times, and it all was corrupted footage, and I just feel like, okay, now let's hop straight into the story. Of many to come, the first. It was a few days later after Applejack and Twilight first agreed to give dating a try. The next day, having agreed on a date to meet on, Twilight once more waiting outside of the front door of Applejack's home one mid-afternoon, having just knocked after arriving there via her blink spell. A moment later, the door was answered by Applejack, with her mouth full of what appeared to be a wicker basket. Smelling of food and with a white cloth covering it. After setting it aside for the moment, she quickly wrapped Twilight in a large hug. So you ready to go, Twi? I was thinking of us taking a little walk and having a picnic. I got the perfect place planned out too, not too far from here, Applejack said after releasing her mare friend from her embrace, a smile crossing her muzzle as she did. They'd yet to tell anybody about their decision to start dating, yet planning to tell their friends and family once they decided they were wanting to go steady and that this wouldn't just be some one-time thing. Twilight's expression suddenly changed to one of panic when Applejack announced her plans for the evening. Oh no, Twilight said in a panicked chant, prancing in place, clearly upset about something. Ugh, nuts. She just arrived and she's just already in a tizzy. What did I do wrong? Applejack thought, watching as her friend virtually had a nervous breakdown in front of her. Applejack quickly moved to get the reins of the situation. Twi, what's the matter? She asked in a cool, grounded tone, one which quickly snapped Twilight's attention to her, with the once near hysterical Eloquent now simply looking nervous as she looked at her friend. Well, it's just that I've been doing a lot of studying on dating these past few days since you basically asked me out. I've read everything I could find on proper dating procedures, how to impress your date, what to wear, if anything at all, good conversation starters, but nowhere in any of the books did it mention outdoor activities. Twilight nearly shouted the last part, her wings unfurling from her body and stiffening out to her sides. I haven't studied for her. I haven't studied for having a picnic date. I mean, there were so many things to do. There were so many things to study, from proper napkin placement to what to wear to... Twilight continued on her tangent, the tone of her voice rising as she started flapping her wings subconsciously in her excitement, starting to rise into the air before she even realized it. Applejack noticed it, however, and quickly moved to ground the accidentally skyward pony, reaching up and giving her back leg a gentle tug, snapping Twilight out of her rant about there always being dinner and salad forks and why it makes no sense to have both. Twilight simply blinked as she then settled back to the ground, folding her wings, and as she realized she'd started taking flight in her distress, looking at the ground with a keen interest and pawing at it with a deep blush on her cheeks. Applejack reached over a hoof to the downward-facing muzzle of her friend and possibly to be filly friend, putting it under her chin and lifting it up to slowly meet her muzzle in a soft kiss. Twilight's blush grew, but she found herself leaning into the comforting smooch as she had the first time, letting all of her once rampant thoughts fade away and be replaced by those gentle tingles going up her back, the sensation of soft lips on her own, and the flavor of a rustic farmer mare rolling through her head. Applejack only held the kiss for a short while, long enough to distract Twilight from her incessant worrying about every little detail of everything she ever did. Ty, we're just going out for a picnic. Ain't no reason to go floating off in a tizzy just 'cause you ain't studied about going on an outdoor date. Just relax, take a few breaths, Applejack said, watching as Twilight took her advice, taking a few deep breaths and visibly relaxing some as she did. This is supposed to be fun, remember? It ain't like you're gonna pass or fail an outing with a friend, she finished with a comforting smile, watching Twilight's worried expression morph into a small smile of her own, only to once more fade. But Applejack, this isn't just an outing, this is a date with you, and all of those books I read, they were all about mares and stallions getting together and going on dates. I couldn't find a single one where there were 2 mares, and that made me think that maybe this is a good idea, that maybe... Twilight once more felt her words fade into a startled mumble before transforming completely into a soft moan of pleasure as she once more felt those cow-pony lips on her own, pushing all of the thoughts out of her mind and instead filling her with the sensation of another pony holding her close, and of soft lips on her own. The worry she was feeling seemed to go by the wayside, her mind pleasantly numbed as she was once more enraptured by how good such a simple interaction could feel, letting herself melt into the embracing her and the mare's chest to whom it belonged to. After a few moments more passed, Applejack once more broke the kiss, leaving Twilight with once more unfurled wings, but knowing she'd taken flight in an entirely different way this time. Geez, Twice, giving you a smooch the only way to get you to stop sweating the small stuff? Applejack asked with a chuckle, giving a smack to the named as she watched her shift, struggling to get her stiffened wings to fold in again and clearly having some trouble accomplishing that feat. Before Twilight could respond, Applejack simply reached over and grabbed the basket from the ground, starting to trot down the main path towards the front gate. Twilight went to call out to her to tell her again how nervous she was about not having planned for a picnic. How nervous she was about not having planned for a picnic on their first date, but instead gave a defeated sigh as she followed behind the trotting mare who was now leading the way. The thoughts of what could go wrong slowly resurfacing as they made their way to wherever had been planned. A few minutes later, the two arrived in an unclaimed wild meadow just outside of the boundaries of Ponyville. Walking through the knee-high grass and wildflowers that grew there, the sense of them, crisp country air, and the green scent of the grass crunching under the hooves made Twilight enjoy the moment, her worries forgotten for the moment. Applejack nudged against her and nodded her head towards a small hill, a green hump, growing taller than the overgrown vegetation, clearly asking Twilight to follow. Soon after, the two arrived atop the hill after a short, easy climb, and as Twilight looked over towards whence they came, a quiet, surprised gasp came from her. Twilight sat and looked on at the beautiful vista presented to her, her eyes wide at how breathtaking it was. The hill overlooked the entirety of Sweet Apple Acres and indeed Ponyville, an entire panorama of the farm settlement, and more distant sprawling cottages and homes visible. In the great distance, one could just make out Canterlot, in another direction the entrance to the Everfree Forest, if they had the eyes for it. While Twilight took in the view that Applejack regularly partook in, the farm mare swiftly unpacked the mid-sized basket of its contents, laying them upon the old blanket she'd brought with him and had spread out over the grass. Their meal set up adequately, Applejack came over and joined Twilight in looking over the panoramic view, giving a satisfied sigh as she sat beside her friend. "Ain't it a beauty?" she asked, smiling as she looked over the view. "Mac and I found this place when we were exploring as foes, and it quickly became one of our favorite hangout spots. The meadow started out being a place we'd come and play, but as we grew older and climbed the hill the first time, we started using it for when we just wanted to get away from the farm. Heck, the world, for a while, when we just needed time to think or relax. Our little sanctuary." Applejack felt her smile widen as she felt Twilight suddenly rub the side of her head against her own, reaching a hoof up just in time to prevent her Stetson from falling off from the action. She and Twilight just sat there for a while, sitting together and enjoying the quiet sounds of the wind and birds singing, before a rumble in Twilight's stomach interrupted the quiet sounds of nature with some of her own. I guess I should have eaten some of those hay cakes Spike made earlier instead of reading. A study of traditional equine courting etiquette. Twilight mumbled more to herself than anything, simply getting a chuckle from Applejack as she nudged Twilight with her muzzle before standing herself, walking over to the huge picnic spread she'd brought. Twilight looked at the massive spread presented to her, from the pile of apple fritters to the 4 large apples to the thickly packed floral and grass sandwiches to the couple of fair-sized bottle of golden brown liquid that could only be the famous Apple family cider, to the several covered dishes that undoubtedly contained some side dishes, and had no idea how Applejack would expect only the two of them to eat so much. At that moment, however, Twilight felt like she could eat a whole field of grass and follow it with a few bushels of apples, and after skipping breakfast, more than eager to lay on the soft old blanket before the huge spread, a moment later being offered to take whatever she wanted. "Go ahead and eat all you want. I brought plenty," Applejack said, waving a hoof over the whole spread and getting a very grateful smile from Twilight as she levitated one of the hefty sandwiches over to her place setting. Applejack then uncovering the dishes to reveal a container of home-style chunky potato salad and some rhubarb salad, along with a coleslaw in the third. There was easily enough here to feed them, plus at least 4 other ponies. I think I may have overpacked a bit. Twilight didn't pay much mind to the quantity so much as the quality, giving a pleased as she sunk her teeth into the sandwich and found it loaded with mayonnaise just the way she liked it, also not noticing just how messy she was being as she got mayo all over her mouth as she ate in a manner certainly not befitting a princess, and indeed just short of ravenous. Soon after, Applejack joined Twilight in eating, grabbing a sandwich of her own and starting to chow down, before Twilight scooped up some potato salad in her magic and placed it in her own plate. The two ate quietly for a while, before Applejack looked over to the town they both called home, smiling softly as she did. From up here, everything looked so small, like the ponies were nothing more than multicolored specks moving around. their individual features nearly indistinguishable. Hey Twy, you ever think this is what them dragons or other big critters see us as? Just some little bitty things? Applejack asked, breaking the silence after she swallowed down a bite of the Brayburn apple she was eating. Twilight stopped chewing as she considered the question of perspective before giving a shrug and resuming mastication. Well, I'd imagine we're like much smaller creatures to them, obviously, so maybe to them we're like rabbits would be in comparison to us ponies, or maybe birds in the case of Pegasi, Twilight said before clearing her throat. Of course, from a power standpoint, they're much more dominant in strength and raw physical power. Applejack couldn't help but chuckle as Twilight went on in great detail about how she thought ponies looked on dragons based on what she'd read about their psychology and other factors, but prior waiting for her to finish before giving a simple yup in response. After that, they talked about this and that while they ate and drank their fill, simply enjoying the company of the other, as Applejack spoke briefly about her time in the orchard that day, before Twilight went off on a tangent out of nowhere about Hoofacrates and how he helped revolutionize the equine medical system thousands of years ago. Boy, this pony really is a chatterbox when she has some cider in her, Applejack thought with a smirk. After a while more talking, eating, drinking, and laughing, Applejack belched loudly as she found herself quite happily stuffed. Patting her belly and noticing Twilight had stopped eating at about the same time, apparently full as well, Twilight quickly noticed that there were probably enough leftovers to feed half a regiment of starving soldiers, and swiftly used her magic to start gathering them, wrapping them back up before sorting them neatly back into the basket. Applejack grabbed the second bottle of cider out of Twilight's telekinetic grip before she put it away, however, also grabbing up the two thrice-drained cider mugs off of the blanket as well, quickly getting to work on filling them up a fourth time. Twilight was feeling rather loose after her 2 alcoholic drinks, somewhat of a lightweight in drinking, it would seem. Whilst Applejack remained mostly unfazed by it, Twilight had the cutest little blush Applejack had ever seen on her face as she swayed back and forth ever so lightly, it being clear the hard cider was having some effects on her. Twilight, want another mug? Applejack asked, offering a poured mug to her. Twilight initially shook her head no, before a moment later took the mug from her compatriot's hoof, shugging down half before giving a loud burp, giggling softly after it. Yeah, make really good cider, Applejack, Twilight said with a hiccup, visibly inebriated now and swaying back and forth a bit more now that the drink had settled in. Well, thanks, Twy, Applejack said, not sure what to say as she took a swig from her own mug. When she lowered it again, she saw that Twilight had set aside her own now empty mug and had apparently gotten much closer to Applejack now, so close that Twilight accidentally bumped into her with one of her sways. Thanks for this, apple sack, Twilight said before suddenly bursting out laughing loudly at her own misnomer for her friend. After wiping a tear from her eye as she finally reduced her laughs to giggles a moment later and finding a hoof now wrapped around her crest, Twilight simply nuzzled into the warm body beside her, quickly finding that it was Applejack's neck. But really, today was the most fun I've ever had in a long time, Twilight mumbled, her face still buried in the soft warm spot it had found. Well, you're welcome, Sugar Cube. It feels nice to just kick my boots off and relax and have a few drinks with a friend here for a change myself, Applejack said, feeling as Twilight nuzzled into her, finding she'd rather like the feeling of another pony so close to her. Applejack continued to hold her mare friend in a close embrace as she continued to nuzzle against her for a moment before feeling Twilight's lips pucker as she planted a sudden kiss on her neck, sending a tingle down Applejack's back at that sensation. Oh, so it's like, is it? Applejack said, only to get another stream of giggles from Twilight, feeling another couple of soft kisses down along the line of her jaw alongside the slow rumble of the mare's laugh against her. Applejack retaliated, but gently nipping at a nearby lavender ear, hearing a quiet yelp of surprise as she did. Far as to fight, Applejack tried to say, her speech interrupted by a flap of now rapidly twitching skin and fur now in her mouth. A second later, Applejack felt another's barrel collide with hers, finding what Twilight suddenly shoved against her, making her ears slip from her mouth and taking the larger earth pony off guard, making her tumble to her side and being followed by the instigator of it landing on top of her. Now pinned beneath her, Applejack squirmed but quickly found a raspberry red glow forming on Twilight's horn, finding it mirrored on each of her limbs, making it so she couldn't move. She initially squirmed to try and escape the spell, but it was just too strong. Y'all's cheating, Applejack exclaimed, only to hear a quiet chuckle from Twilight. All fair is in love and war, exclaimed Twilight before planting her muzzle onto Applejack's again. The pin pony tried to rebel further, but quickly found this tingle of pleasure up and down her spine too alluring to resist. The gentle flavor of her friend's mouth invaded her own, alongside the flavor of lunch and apple cider, made her press into Twilight's muzzle more, only for her to pull away. Hey, Applejack, you're kinda getting the blanket wet. Twilight stated, with Applejack only just noticing with Twilight's soap that she'd been getting incredibly aroused, whether from being held down, kissed, or possibly even both, and her body was showing it physically. A deep blush formed on her cheeks as she tried to look away from Twilight, and instead at a nearby flower. Sorry, Twilight, I don't mean nothing by it, it's just you're such a sexy mare and you're kissing me. Applejack stammered out, trying her damnedest to apologize for her involuntary reaction, only to be interrupted by Twilight's hoof pushing against her muzzle gently, making her face her, then lips on her own once more. Muscles mashed together gently and hot breath washed over each other as they continued where they left off, tingles running down both mares' spines and throughout their bodies before Twilight finally relented, leaving both panting hotly on each other. Both simply looked at each other, then Twilight gave a big smile. Well, I can't say any pony's ever gotten wet because of me. Before, Twilight said, releasing her magic on Applejack and letting her move freely again. Applejack did was close her hind legs, her tail was swishing to hide her aroused marehood now that she was able to. She was just short of mortified about to apologize again before Twilight finished her sentence. But I kinda like the feeling of being able to do that to some pony. Applejack was dumbstruck. Applejack was dumbstruck. What? Huh? She stammered, only to get what could only be Twilight's best attempt at bedroom eyes. They certainly seemed to serve their purpose. Applejack now felt a trickle of wetness roll down her stifle and onto the blanket, joining the small dark spot she'd already left there. She was indeed quite aroused. Twilight, are you trying to suit? Yes, she is. This is fucking adorable. Twilight, are y'all trying to seduce me? She asked unsurely. Twilight's risque expression flashed to a nervousness of her own, starting to squirm a bit, her wings fluttering slightly. I don't know. Am I doing a good job? I didn't study much in being sexy, so I don't even know what I'm doing, she stammered out, her voice starting to take a panic tone again. Now, Twilight, that everything has to be just so. So when it comes to courting, Applejack said comfortably, placing a hoof on Twilight, feeling her flinch as she did. Ain't gotta be in a certain order where one pony does this and another that. Just do what feels right, Twilight, and you'll do the same. Applejack suddenly found Twilight's hoof wrapped around hers. Then Twilight asked something Applejack wouldn't have expected in a long time. Applejack, have ya ever, had sex? Applejack squirmed slightly at that question, her upbringing being very sparse in regards to breeding, and with no mention ever made to two mares in that regard. Well, I can't say I have, Applejack says simply and more winningly than she thought she would. I ain't never found a stallion or mare I liked enough to let 'em get that far with me. Past that, I've used my hoofs during the breeding seasons. I see, Twilight said, before suddenly getting closer to Applejack, her hoof creeping a bit tighter as she put her muzzle right next to her friend's ear. What would you think about having sex with a mare? The sudden question and the implications that came with it threw Applejack for a loop. Are you suggesting? Applejack started, only to get a nod from Twilight. Applejack, I'm just gonna ask you. I don't know if this is just a cider talking, but all of that reading got me real curious about what real sex feels like between two mares. Would you like me to be your first? Twilight asked, squirming herself in both nervousness and arousal, her still open wings showing such. I mean, I don't really have much experiences past using a toy or my hooves in my ester heat, but Applejack grew silent and deep in thought. One of her closest friends, who also just happened to be an alicorn princess and one of the most powerful beings in Equestria, plus drunk off her flank, had just offered to take her virginity and give her her own in exchange, and in no uncertain terms either. She loved Twilight, both as a friend and quite possibly more, but was she really willing to take this major step with her, and when she was completely plastered? Twilight, I don't know about this. I mean, this is only our first date, and I don't think we would be intimate just yet. Besides, you're not totally yourself on account of the cider. Probably shouldn't have brought it on a second thought, Applejack explained after some thought, knowing she wasn't quite ready for this so soon in the relationship, and as much and as such trying to let her down gently. She wanted to get to know Twilight more first on a deeper level before taking such a major step with her, despite what her own body said. Twilight sighed but nodded. You're right, Applejack. I don't drink that often, and it seems, well, I'm kind of susceptible to intoxication, she said, giving a woozy smile as she continued to sway softly. It's alright, Honeycrisp, Applejack said, giving her a smile. I ain't mad. I ain't mad at ya or nothing. Matter of fact, come here. At that, Applejack held her hoofs open to her, inviting her for a hug. Twilight happily accepted, hugging her friend a bit tighter than normal. As the sun started to set quite some hours of talking and laughing later, Twilight and Applejack watched it fall below the horizon's crest and eventually climb down the hill before it got too dark. As they approached the main barn, Twilight was pretty much herself again, the alcohol mostly having run its course and leaving her a bit dehydrated in its wake. Today was fun, Applejack. Thank you for this, Twilight said, giving her mirror friend another hug, and Applejack reciprocating. Weren't nothing. I had fun too. Hey, Applejack, is it alright if we kiss again? Twilight asked a bit shyly. Hey, yeah, we can, you beautiful mare, Applejack said and moved forward, meeting her lips with Twilight again. The kiss was cut off, however, as Twilight pulled away and yawned some time later, followed by Applejack giving a reciprocating yawn of her own. Boy, howdy do fun days take it out of ya. Yeah, today was great. Anyways, I guess I should get going. Spike will probably still be waiting for me, and it's already past his bedtime as it is, Twilight explained, before leaning over for another brief kiss. We'll definitely have to do something like this again later. I agree on that, Sugar. But for now, I'll see ya later. Tell Spike I said howdy. Will do, Twilight said as she took to a trot, spread her wings and took off, soaring through the sky easily now that she had some training from Rainbow Dash and experience. As she flew away, Applejack turned to the front door of her domicile, smiling softly as she felt the warmth of Twilight's lips on her own. Yep, we're definitely gonna have to do this again, she whispered to herself before opening the door and heading inside. The end. Woo! God, Twilight being drunk is always a scary thing in my opinion. Anyways, what was I gonna say? Okay, yeah. Guys, I got a question. If you made it this far, tell me, real life, who would you want to date out of any pony in the series? Boom. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
100,000 stories have filled my head as I look for the answer in what I've read. Secretly waiting for my life to change. And with this transformation,